Picture this. You remove your tie at an international conference, and the hall falls into deathly silence. A multi-billion-dollar monopoly crumbles in seconds. Stock prices plummet, corporate plans go up in smoke. This is exactly how in the late 1950s, a Soviet scientist overturned the global industrial balance of power with a single gesture. But to understand how an ordinary tie became a weapon against monopolies, let's dig deeper. 1939, England. Two chemists, John Winfield and James Dixon, are working in a laboratory and bang, they create polyethylene terephthalate, a substance from which you can draw threads thinner than hair, yet incredibly strong. Can you imagine their faces? John, what have we got here? No idea, James, but it looks promising. In 1941, the patent is immediately classified. Wartime, no time for experiments with threads. Only in 1947 did the world learn about the miracle fiber. British ICI called it terylene, while American giant DuPont dubbed it Dacron. Western companies were jubilant. Now we own the future of textiles. But what about the USSR? A vast country that had defeated the fascists, yet citizens were patching captured German overcoats and altering pre-war dresses. The Soviet Union of 1947 was like a giant who could lift a mountain but couldn't buy himself a decent shirt. People managed with incredible ingenuity. Old parachutes became wedding dresses, overcoats turned into school coats, and army tent cloaks were remade into skirts. There was no choice, no quality fabric, only skilled hands and resourcefulness. 27 million dead. This wasn't just a number in a textbook, but empty textile factories, burned cotton fields, destroyed mills. Spending foreign currency on beautiful fabrics was an unaffordable luxury. Under the Chemical Industry Development Plan, scientists received resources and laboratories, but the price of failure was high. The USSR desperately needed its own analog of Western terylene. Attempts to buy a license? The British demanded such a price that it would have been easier to buy half of London. They were confident. Soviet scientists had neither the scientific foundation nor the necessary catalysts. The door was slammed politely but categorically. Nothing personal, just business. The task of saving Soviet light industry fell to a man who dreamed of paints and easels. Boris Vladimirovich Petukov, future conqueror of polymers. Born into a cultured Leningrad family, he dreamed of becoming an artist from childhood and brilliantly painted portraits. After school, he applied to the Leningrad Academy of Arts, now St. Petersburg Academy. He passed the creative exams with flying colors, drawing, portraiture, watercolor, but stumbled over Russian language. Heartbreaking. Not seeking workarounds, 18-year-old Petukov went to the army. And in the early morning of June 22, 1941, on his 20th birthday, instead of congratulations, he heard the thunder of artillery. He went through the war from beginning to end, and this experience changed him forever. Returning from the front in 1945, Boris Petukov enrolled in the Leningrad Technological Institute's chemistry department. The choice was deliberate. He saw how the country needed its own materials, how important science was. During his studies, he became fascinated with polymers, a cutting-edge and almost unstudied field. Petukov studied all available materials about Western developments, searching for rare mentions of artificial fibers. After receiving his diploma in 1949, he joined the Institute of Organoelement Compounds of the USSR Academy of Sciences. There, in a laboratory under the guidance of academician Vasily Korshak, work began on creating the Soviet miracle fiber. They worked by trial and error, often with old equipment. The West guarded its secrets more carefully than gold reserves. Formulas? Classified? Catalysts? Unknown. Process parameters? Top secret. The key problem was selecting a catalyst, a substance that initiates and stabilizes the reaction. Without it, all chemistry becomes expensive garbage. The team worked in 3 shifts. Lights never went out in the laboratories for days. Petukov systematically solved 3 critical tasks: finding reliable raw materials, establishing a stable technological process, and equipment for fiber formation. Hundreds of attempts, hundreds of failures, but giving up was not an option. And then came the decisive moment. Together with colleague Emil Eisenstein, Petukov finally achieved a stable reaction. In the flask, thick, transparent resin. He takes a glass rod, dips it into the mass, and slowly pulls upward. The resin stretches into a thread, thin, elastic even. It holds its shape, doesn't break, gleams in the light. This was a breakthrough. They gave their creation a name that encoded its origin. LAVSAN, Laboratory of High Molecular Compounds of the Academy of Sciences. At an international conference in the late 1950s, a Western specialist from DuPont was discussing the revolutionary properties of dacron. He demonstrated samples, emphasized the technology's exclusivity. In the hall sat representatives of the largest chemical corporations who had spent years trying to crack the secret of polyester fiber. After the applause, a Soviet delegate calmly rose from his seat. He took 2 test tubes from his briefcase, one with white powder, the other with clear liquid. Ethylene glycol and terephthalic acid from ordinary petroleum, he announced. And then, attention, he slowly removed his tie and showed it to the hall. We also have such material. We call it lavsan. For several seconds, everyone was silent, as if the world had stopped. DuPont representatives exchanged glances as if they had witnessed the impossible. The multi-billion-dollar monopoly collapsed before the eyes of the entire world. The most unexpected move was yet to come. In 1958, the Soviet journal Textile Industry published an article with a detailed description of lavsan technology. Western corporations, accustomed to hiding technologies behind 7 seals, were in shock. Soviet scientists didn't hide their discovery in a safe, but made it the property of world science. This was a revolution not only in chemistry, but in the approach to scientific discoveries. The entire polyester field was transferred to a new institute in Kalinin, now Tver, and Petukov moved there, becoming deputy director for scientific work. In the late 1960s, he headed a joint group with German specialists from East Germany to launch production at the Mogilev plant in Belarus. Soviet science plus German engineering precision resulted in one of the most efficient enterprises in the industry in Europe. The Kursk plant by the mid-70s was producing tens of thousands of tons of lavsan per year. A lavsan suit cost 30 to 40 rubles versus 60 to 80 for wool, half the price. People could finally dress beautifully and affordably. Modern statistics are staggering. Fibers based on polyethylene terephthalate comprise more than 60% of global synthetic material production. They're used not only for clothing, but for yacht sails, truck tarpaulins, and geotextiles for road construction. Every year, the world produces more than 70 million tons of PET fibers, a breathtaking figure. Polyethylene terephthalate proved to be a material beyond time, countries, and ideologies. Its discovery resulted from the efforts of scientists from different nations: British, American, Soviet. Each contributed to what has become the foundation of modern textile and packaging industries. Lavsan, dacron, terylene, different names, same essence. Behind every scientific discovery stand living people with their dreams, disappointments, and incredible persistence. This story shows how science can change the world, and how openness of scientific knowledge can destroy any monopoly. The history of polyester fibers is a lesson that true scientific breakthroughs know no boundaries and belong to all humanity.